Hello everyone. Today we will be learning about the power of piece activity. In previous videos, I've often stated that it's important for you to develop your pieces, but I've never really told you exactly why you should do it. Today, I will be demonstrating the importance of having active pieces. The main reason why we want to develop our pieces to active squares is because when our pieces are active, we have so much more options available to us than when our pieces aren't active. Let's look at this example. Here, white has a very active position. All his pieces except his rook are developed and on active squares, where they control many squares and have many possibilities, especially his forward positioning bishop, knight, and queen. Right now, all of his pieces are aiming towards black's king side, and as a result, white has so many attacking options open to him. For example, he could push his pawn to h5 here, and he is now threatening multiple different threats at the same time, all because of how active his pieces are. If black does nothing against these threats, for example, if he just moves his rook to c8, white can do many different things here. He can sacrifice his knight here on h7, and this leads to checkmate. He can also first take the pawn on g6 first, and then move his knight to h7. So regardless of where he goes, white here has many different winning options available to him, and this is once again a direct result of how active his pieces are. If we look at a similar example here, except where white's pieces aren't as active as before, he no longer has the possibilities available to him, and he can no longer use his active pieces to attack black. So this just shows how active pieces can open up many options to us. Piece activity is not only important in the opening and middle game, but is also extremely important in the ending. In the opening and middle game, the king is fairly useless, and our main goal for our king is just to protect it and keep it safe. In the ending, however, this changes, and sometimes our king can have the opportunity to shine. The reason why we want our king to be active in the ending is because in the opening and middle game, there are many pieces on the board that can threaten our king. But in the ending, there no longer are as many pieces on the board, and naturally, there no longer are as many pieces on the board that can threaten our king. So activating our king does not pose that much of a danger. Activating our king in the ending will give us one more piece that can be of use, so it is usually a good idea. Let's look at this position. For example, here we are in a bishop ending, and there are no pieces on the board that can threaten our king, so it is a great idea to activate our king and make it as much use as possible. We can do this by moving our king forward to attack the undefended pawn on a6. To do this, we can just simply move it toward the a6 square by moving to e4, and if black tries the same thing of activating his king, we're one step ahead. And in the end, by activating our king, we were able to win the a6 pawn for free and gain a large advantage. Let's look at some examples to make sure we understand piece activity. In this position, where should white move? Pause the video and I will reveal the solution in 3 seconds. Here, white has not developed his bishop on c1, so it is a good idea to do so. However, the main question is where we should move this bishop. Should we move the bishop to e3, to d2, to a3, or to b2? To answer this, we can just visualize the bishop on each of these squares and determine where it will be more active, since the more active our pieces are, the more options we have available to us. So, let's compare these different possibilities. If we move our bishop to e3, our bishop isn't really doing much, since the pawn on c5 is blocking white's diagonal, and also, white can't really move his bishop on e3 to d4 here, since the pawn on c5 is attacking that square. So, In conclusion, the bishop on e3 isn't very useful. How about the bishop on d2? On d2, the bishop is once again not that useful, because it is not really doing much here. It, in reality, is only controlling the c3 square here, and also the e3 square here, since there isn't much of a diagonal, and also black's pawns are attacking the b4 and a5 square, so white can never move his bishop there, because black's pawns are controlling these squares. Let's look at the a3 square now. Similarly to the e3 square, white's bishop isn't doing much here because black's pawn on c5 is blocking white's diagonal. And also, once again, white can never move his bishop to b4 since the black pawn is attacking that square. So once again, the bishop on a3 is not very useful either. Now, let's look at the final square, b2. If we move our bishop to b2, white's bishop now enjoys a beautiful diagonal that stretches from one corner of the board to the other corner of the board. Visually and logically, the bishop is best on b2, so therefore, it is best to develop our bishop on b2 because it is more active there, and once again, active pieces open up possibilities to us. Let's look at another example. In this position, where should white move? Pause the video and I will reveal the solution in 3 seconds. Here, white should activate his king because it is currently the ending and there are no pieces from black's camp that can threaten our white king if we decide to activate it. So, we should therefore use our king as an attacking piece and plan to attack black's vulnerable pawns on the queen side, namely the c5 pawn. To do so, we want to move our king forward to f3. And when black tries to activate his king as well, we are one step ahead, and we use the route of moving our king to f4, e5, and then d5. And then in the end, we win black's pawn on c5, and we are now a pawn up and in a winning position because we decided to activate our king. To sum up today's lesson, we learned the importance of piece activity and how active pieces give us many more options compared to less active pieces. We also learned that the king is important in endings and that it should be activated and used as an attacking piece if there are no pieces left on the board that can threaten checkmate to our king. That is all for today. Thank you for watching and have a good day.